And if it's a more casual relationship, if you kind of are noticing some signals that you're kind of getting the, huh, what? What's up with this person? I often be like, oh, I'm so sorry. It says here that my autism is over 9,000, and so I think there might have been some disconnect here. Let's help get back on track. The more connections you have, the more that you can feel secure that you will not be isolated, you will not be alone, that it isn't just on you. Hi, my friends, fiends, and unsavory beings. Welcome to another Ask a Therapist radio show. I'm RiaRosella, and for new listeners, I'm a therapist specializing in queer, trans, and neurodivergent issues, and I'm here to help. So, if you want to ask me a question, please see the link in the description. And if you find this helpful, please like and subscribe. It would help get the knowledge out there. That's why I'm doing this. I want to help people to the best of my ability because I know therapy can not be the most affordable thing that you can potentially get. So that's why I'm sharing some knowledge. But as another reminder, please do not take this as gospel. I don't know you or your situation. Try to take it to a professional so that way you can co review what you're learning here. All right. So, I get a lot of questions, and I thought it would be useful this time to start with kind of summarizing several questions into kind of one mega question. Why do I feel so isolated as a trans person, and what can I do about it? Is the first question. You know, I think that it is something that a lot of us feel when we're starting this journey. The sense of isolation, the sense of otherness, and it can be really, really hard to find a way to get around it. But why is that? Well, of course, there has to do with being an other, right? Cis people don't know what to do with us. So they don't want to do harm, a lot of them. So they will err on the side of kind of just steering clear of you and being like, I don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to pretend like they're not there. For a lot of well-meaning people. One thing that I found that helped me while I was early in transition, I was actually a waitress. And I found that if I gendered myself, it made it easier for them. So I'd walk up to the table and I'd be like, "Hi, I'm RiaRosella. I'll be your waitress today. How can I help you?" By gendering myself, they knew what to do with me. And so it helped good meaning people know how to interact with me. And that can help with the isolation that we can feel by helping people help us kind of deal. So that's a really quick, easy one to get out of the way. But I feel that things have gotten a lot more complicated in recent times with the way the pandemic was, but also the global climate, especially in the United States. We live in the modern world where if you don't want to leave your house, you can build a life where that's possible. We have DoorDash and Instacart for food and groceries. We are completely atomized. We don't have the need to go into town. Actually, a lot of us feel like we don't know how to interact with people anymore in this modern era. And it can be really hard as a trans person to connect, especially when you feel like you are going from a place of being seen as a normal person, even though that's not real, to a minority and an other, and you just feel like you don't want to inconvenience people with your presence. That feeling is one of the big factors that leads to isolation as a trans person. You have to challenge that and sit in that discomfort because ultimately you're making the decision for other people if you remove yourself from them. Let them, with their own behavior or actions, dictate how they feel about you. Don't preemptively remove yourself from everyone. That doesn't help you and it doesn't help anyone. I think another factor, though, is actually how a lot of us begin to transition. We tend to experiment in digital spaces. We do things like changing our gender role on Discord or creating social media profiles where we get to be ourselves because it's a really low bar to entry, right? And that's a good thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But I feel that a lot of us can get trapped in like being an avatar or being a Discord profile picture and not actually sitting in the discomfort of dealing with interacting with other people in person. We just get comfortable. We say, oh, this is good enough. But then that sense of isolation and loneliness builds and builds and builds. And we just are miserable, frankly. And I feel that we need both. We need social interaction in any form. Online is great and wonderful, but we need in-person connection as well. There's something about having your nervous system interface directly with another person's nervous system that really, really helps. And that's why, we have to, if you have a lot of online relationships, I encourage you to bridge the gaps in geography when you are able to. At a minimum, using your camera and so you can see another person's eyes and feel them. That will really, really, really help with that isolation feeling. But, you know, being in person with someone is so much more, especially if these people are your inner people. We form attachments by touch. It's part of what we do as humans, and I'm not saying everyone does that to the same degree. There are some people that are touch averse, but we have this innate drive as small children to be touched and held by our mothers and fathers and non binary parents of any kind. And we just it's a part of the human experience. It's a part of that story. And if you don't have that, it contributes to that feeling of isolation and loneliness. So that's kind of what I have to say is get out of your comfort zone and also don't assume you're a problem and do things to gender yourself so well-meaning cis people don't just decide to avoid you because they're afraid of hurting you. There is no substitution for doing things. I think that is the theme of this radio show for a lot of the questions I get. You can't think about things so hard that you do them. So, thank you so much for all the people that kind of asked similar questions to this. That way, I could kind of answer all of them in one fell swoop. Our next question is from an anonymous person who is unsure about their gender identity. They ask, how would I go about finding/making an appointment with a therapist in a more discreet way? I'm a recent college grad from the South who is constantly watched and tracked by my parents. They are extremely conservative and religious, and they have been openly against therapy. I just want to figure out who I am and get my depression and ADHD under control without being called a demon possessed constantly. And I chose this question to follow that one up because frankly, we can have people in our lives that make it harder to connect with people. And you have to take that into account. That's why we tend to live online, a lot of us, if we're in an unsupportive environment. For this person, I've said it before, but finding a therapist in general, if you're a queer, trans, neurodivergent person, looking for poly or kink affirming therapists, typically those who market those niche groups, if they also have trans or neurodivergent support, they tend to be in the community as well. And so they'll really know what they're talking about. So that's the finding part, right? Telehealth has become more common since the pandemic. So if you can find some time when they're not around, you can have sessions at home. That would be the easiest way to go about it. That being said, working to get a device that isn't like on the Find the Family plan and leaving that device at home could be one way, but again, that could cause some problems because if they're home and you're not, but your phone says you're home, that can cause some problems. But maybe they're also busy and you want to appear at the house. So that could be one thing to do. Again, I am not saying you should do that. That is a higher risk behavior, but it was something that came to my mind when I was thinking about your question. But yeah, it's telehealth is probably the easiest way to go about that. And I'm really sorry that you're in that situation. Working to get out of that is probably going to be the thing that will help you the most in the end. But I understand it can be really hard to do that when we feel depressed and or our ADHD is unmanaged. So, yeah, I have extreme empathy and sympathy from that because I too was tracked and monitored when I was younger in my life. It is it is not a fun time. All right, our next question. Another anonymous with someone saying they are probably a he, him. How the heck to deal with social skills training that F's up your gender, autism, ADHD, trans? Question mark, question mark, question mark? So it sounds like this person is struggling with social stuff while also being trans. I feel that as autistic slash neurodivergent people in general, but particularly like autistic people who have impairment in social skills compared to allistic people, we really struggle. And then adding gender stuff on top, it can be very, very complicated. Something that I use that I think is very useful in general. It's kind of the basis of being an autistic person while socializing is I call it the confession technique or setting expectations. Actually, Hannah Gatsby has a special on Netflix that's all about this. It's a funny comedic way to learn about this. It is the comedy special Douglas. So I often assign that as a homework to people to kind of demonstrate setting expectations. But if you're struggling in social situations as an autistic person, like setting expectations of who you are and how you move through the world. As an example, I will often tell people that I prefer asynchronous communication. So when people text me, if I don't reply, it's to assume that I'm busy, not that I am upset at you or something else, and vice versa. And if we have any actual problems, avoiding talking about it is not a solution for solving it because I am going to assume if you're not talking to me, you're just busy. That's kind of how I do things. So, kind of having that mutual agreement with the people in your life can be really important. And if it's a more casual relationship, if you kind of are noticing some signals that you're kind of getting the, huh, what? What's up with this person? I often be like, oh, I'm so sorry. It says here that my autism is over 9,000, and so I think there might have been some disconnect here. Let's help get back on track. That is a great social skill. Kind of unlearning social behavior from a previous identity. That's complicated phrasing, but like when you're trans, you are kind of moving from one set of expectations to another set of expectations. It's just something you have to slowly build over time. What it means to be a certain gender that you feel you are, it's really, really important. And you're going to have this period of time where you feel like an imposter a little bit. It's this thing where you're uncomfortable. Butler talks about how we don't become a gender performance instantly. We get comfortable in that performance over time and then we actualize it. It's very similar to how teenagers socialize into the adult version of their gender identity. It's just that we as trans people do it when we transition. So, yeah, that's what I have for you, Anonymous. I hope it's helpful. Woo. Okay. Okay, Noelle, she, they. Do you have any advice to come out to my family? I'm not scared about them not accepting me so much as I am worried about wording it wrong or them kind of just not using my chosen name after I tell them. Any tips? Well, as I think I've said before on the show, coming out shouldn't be a discussion. You are informing them of who you are. They're going to want to ask all these questions and being like, are you sure? Blah, 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 blah. Don't make it a conversation. Just being like, hey, this is who I am. I can answer questions about being trans, but I don't want you to question this. I am really sure I have spent X number of years thinking about this. This is not a new thing for me. So I can help you get transness, but please accept this is who I am. So that's kind of the first step of things. The second step is they will mess up. Sorry, that's just how it is. Even if they are well meaning, it takes a while for a schema to change. But you made it sound like you thought that they would be reluctant moving forward. That's about boundary setting and saying, hey, parental unit, I really need you to use this name. It's really, really important to me. And, not to make it an ultimatum, but I might not respond if you don't use my name. So please use the name that I would like. Granted, that's for a more accepting parent. If you're dealing with more kind of neutral or contemplation kind of stuff, that can just take time. It just takes time. So, something to understand is the wheel of change. So, first you have pre contemplative, contemplation, then you have preparation, action phase, and then maintenance slash relapse depending on the type of behavior. Obviously, with a transition, you're not really going to usually relapse, but some behaviors, we do kind of fall back into old patterns. But it's really important when you're dealing with interfacing with people. You are in the action step when you're coming out, this is right for you, you're doing the thing, right? But you just presented this idea to your parental unit. So they're in pre-contemplation. They're at the beginning of this wheel, right? So they need to digest that change with time. And so there is going to be some friction, maybe even willful friction if they're in pre-contemplative, because they're like, no, I've known you as this my whole life. And that isn't necessarily a rejection. It's just that it's so foreign to you that you're just so unsure. That's the kind of thing that we tend to struggle with when we're changing. So kind of have to take it on the chin for a little bit, but eventually, if they are neutral to accepting, they will get it. But you're going to have to sit in that uncomfortable. Getting Building distress tolerance is just a skill that we as trans and neurodivergent people just have to do. It is part of our experience as humans because there are so many things that cause distress. So building that muscle, like, is really, really important. So, yeah, it's just a part of the process. All right. Zara, she, her. How do I not worry about things outside my control? I have a stable job I've been at for 2 years, loving family, and currently working on building intimate relationship and personal community of friends. But I'm constantly worried about losing my job and access to HRT, people I care about moving away, or friends changing jobs. I know I shouldn't let these things bring me down, but I can't stop it. Well, that's kind of the nature of life to change, right? We were just talking about that. And yeah, people who tend to fixate on these types of what ifs tend to have like a hunger for connection. They don't have secure attachments. And so they're worried about the little bit of security that they do have being swept underneath them. But you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do right now to help with that. You are building the connections. And the more connections you have, the more that you can feel secure that you will not be isolated. You will not be alone, that it isn't just on you. That is why we get terrified of things crumbling out beneath us, is because we feel that we're adrift, alone. And yeah, no, that is a normal human reaction. But you're doing the thing to make it better. Yes, some people may come and go. That isn't going to be everyone. And some people might bridge geography with you. Just because someone moves or something like that does not mean they aren't going to be your friend anymore. It might take more effort, especially if you're neurodivergent and you have the out of sight, out of mind thing. Like calendars are your friend, and I'm guilty of not actually calendaring as well as I should to see the people who are important to me. But it is what it is, and we just have to do the best we can. But if you continue to build connections, especially, those more intimate connections, people that want to build a life with you, like some chosen family stuff, or romantic relationships. My personal method was being poly for that. You can feel way more secure in your relationships. So that's what I kind of have for you. You're already doing what you need to be doing. Regarding the job thing and the HRT thing, yeah, you might want to stock up. There are ways to do that. I can't really mention those here, but there are ways to stock up. You can do lots of different things to make that kind of happen. And I recommend you usually using your noodle about that and maybe doing a little research. But you can get, especially if you're on estrogen, because it isn't a controlled substance, there are workarounds, I should say. So that's what I have there for you for that. Okay, anonymous, he, him. How do you find the motivation when your mental health is low? Asking because I have assignments due, and for me, low mental health equals low spoons, and therefore I miss assignments and due dates. Well, the first step is to try to determine why we're low in the mental health, right? Sometimes it's unavoidable. If you're in a traumatic environment, and you have people in your life that you can't control. Since you said assignments, I'm assuming you're a young person. That is sometimes the lot for a lot of us. Our family of origin is not very great, and it can lead to problems. So you have to do the best you can with that. It's not there is no magic uh, bullet, or silver bullet rather, for that. Regarding things you can do, though, trying to build things that you need when you're low spoons, and trying to learn what type of low spoons you kind of have. If your body is feeling gross, but you're not really mentally tired, maybe you can think and work and do that kind of stuff. But sometimes I have found the opposite action is appropriate. You need to work your body to get it to feel good and do some exercise and some movement. So trying some light movement to see if that helps briefly, and if it doesn't, stopping can be a thing to do. Another thing is something that I highly recommend is from the How to ADHD channel. There's a 2 video thing on the wall of awful. Basically, when we have big emotional blocks for doing something, we can kind of cheat by changing our emotional state. So listening to something, exercise, doing something that we feel like we can accomplish. These can change our emotional state. And what they say in the video is this puts a door in the wall of awful. It's not the best strategy, because we do need to learn how to eventually climb that wall, because that will help us in the future. But sometimes we don't have the ability to climb it. We don't have the energy. So putting a door in it can be a nice little cheat to help us get through that big emotional thing. When we have ADHD and other neurodivergencies or other issues, and if you're talking to me, I'm going to assume that, we tend to conflate emotions and difficulty and emotions and time, which can make big things seem very overwhelming. But building some time wisdom and actually being okay, how long did that actually take? How much, I'm actually doing that right now with recording this. I've had a little bit of a block because I have been kind of out of the saddle recovering from surgery. So I'm going to reflect after this to really, really think about, okay, how was this recording, especially for an Ask a Therapist where I don't have to interface with another person, and kind of, reflect on that to make it hopefully easier to climb that wall next time. So, yeah, that's what I have for you, Anon. I really hope that it helps. Just do the best you can in your situation. And frankly, if it's a not great situation, I think giving yourself grace about missing assignments is probably another very important thing that you can do. Okay, our next question comes from Valerie, she, her. I'm already come out to my parents as trans twice, and they've essentially ignored me both times, just doing their best to act like it doesn't exist and it never happened. Is there anything else I can do at this point, or do I just have to sit and wait until I can move out? I mean, it depends on how hostile they are, right? Like, if you are transitioning, eventually there will be some body changes that will be kind of unignorable. Like, if fat is redistributing and maybe you get some breast development, because yes, you did say she, her, so I'm assuming you're trans feminine. That just happens. Sometimes people want to be willful and not pay attention, but eventually you are going to become this person that is not able to be ignored, assuming it's a safe environment to do something like that, right? If it isn't a safe environment, but it sounds like it's kind of a neutral negative environment based on context, but I have to answer more generally. Yeah, you might be stuck just kind of in those online spaces to feel safe for a little while you build to get out. But as I said before, don't get trapped just there. You have to eventually not just make the gender transition, but the social transition to learn how to function as you in the world. And so I hope that if you do have to like cope for a long time, that you spend some spoons to actually reconnect with the world after you get to a safe place. I think some other things you can do is just presenting. Like, yes, the hormones can do stuff, but if you present as your gender, it's kind of hard to ignore. But again, there's going to be that discomfort and awkward if it's neutral negative, meaning that, like, yeah, you're going to be presenting as you wish, but they're going to be ignoring it. I don't know if you've ever seen Rent, but there's a song that's like, Take me, baby, or leave me. Take me for who I am, who I meant to be. Like, kind of that boldness can help. And yes, you have to sit in the discomfort of this person kind of trying to ignore it, but again, you gotta be you. And eventually people will get it if they want to be in your life. If they don't want to be in your life, then that's their choice. If they don't want to see you for you. So that's what I have for you on that one. It is a complicated one when you're in kind of that neutral negative situation. I really hope that you do have some options to do what you need to do and you'll be safe. Being safe is the most important thing. Okay, we have another anonymous question. They them for now. I'm an autistic 29-year-old assigned male at birth person who has had their egg cracked recently and has been seriously questioning their gender. I am currently leaning towards possibly being a trans woman as I reflect on my life. But my question is, can being neurodivergent, having mental illnesses such as depression or anxiety, or past trauma cloud your judgment when it comes to your gender identity? Hope you're having a good day and appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Well, thank you for the appreciation. And I'm not going to say it is impossible for those things to cloud it, but typically no. Definitely trauma can influence who we are, and I think one out of all the cases I've ever been, trauma was a clouding factor. But I've had a 6 year long career almost, and that's only really happened one time. And yeah, I can't say that it can never happen, but usually no. And the reason why is if you have a gender affirming therapist, which I highly recommend if possible, everyone get their own gender affirming therapist as they explore. They will help you do things to ensure that you are sure. It's that reflective on your actions that kind of makes you more confident in your gender identity. And so the doing, please, for the love of goodness, do things, not don't just think. And that will make you much more confident in your gender identity. So that's what I have for you all. I would like to ask you again to please like and subscribe. And the sponsor of this video is actually my Patreon, because that's how it is when you're a smaller YouTuber. Your Patreon is your sponsor. For just $1 a month, you can join a Discord where there's a community. It helps me with like making this content, but also you get a community out of it. It's a good community where people are trying to grow together, but that while that is a big part of it and we do support each other, the focus honestly is on the community piece. We've actually been working together recently to make sure that's the case because if you are feeling unsure, anxious, you're having some attachment issues, time can be the thing that actually helps you with feeling more safe and connected to people. And so that's what we as a community have decided that we want to focus on. Yes, we will help collect people as they stumble and support them to the best as we can, as there are limitations to being people on the internet. It is not a therapy group or anything, but, people try to support people. But being together, doing events, hanging out, that can make you feel much more confident and not alone, and that's what the community provides. So for $1 a month, you can access that. For $5 or more, you can be in my credits of these videos and also have a private section in the Discord, and then 10, that is that plus more gratitude. You can also sit on recordings when I have guests if they wish. That is your perk for being at the highest level. And yeah, so that's my Patreon plug. Woo! So, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you found this helpful, or just wanted to say that you got all the way to the end, I would like you to pick a waffle emoji and comment on one of the answers to one of the questions and some of your thoughts and experience, and maybe you can help answer these questions as well. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean I have all the life experience or knowledge, so you in the comments can sometimes be really helpful too. So thank you so much. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Welcome to the magic place of the end card. I want to give a shout out to the people doing fan art and my $5 plus patrons you see here. Will you please subscribe and ring the bell as well? Check out this video here next. Please do it for me, sweetie. Mwah.